Good morning, class. So today we're going to be going over Chapter 7, Lifespan Development. Preparatory applies fundamental knowledge of the emergency medical services system, safety, well-being of the emergency medical technician, EMT, medical/legal, and ethical issues to provision of emergency care. Lifespan development applies fundamental knowledge of lifespan development to patient assessment and management. Humans develop throughout their lives. EMTs must be aware of the physical changes a person undergoes at various stages of life may affect approach to patient care. Neonates and infants. Neonates is anybody from birth to 1 month. Infants is 1 month to 1 year. Develop at a startling rate. Vital signs. At birth, pulse rate is 90 to 180 beats per minute, and respiratory rate is 30 to 60 breaths per minute. Shortly after birth, pulse rate drops to 100 to 160 beats per minute, and respiratory rate slows 25 to 50 breaths per minute. By 1 year, respiratory rate slows to 20 to 30 breaths per minute. Blood pressure directly corresponds to the patient's weight, typically increases with weight. So infants are going to have a lower blood pressure than your adults or your teenagers. Weight. Neonates weigh 6 to 8 pounds at birth, growth of about 1 ounce per day. Weight triples by the end of the first year. Cardiovascular system. At birth, neonate makes transition from fetal to independent circulation. Pulmonary system. Infants younger than 6 months are prone to nasal congestion. Infants have larger tongues and shorter, narrower airways. So airway obstruction is more common than in older children or adults. So if everyone takes a look at their pinky finger, that's about the size of your own airway. So imagine a baby's hands. You can imagine their their pinky and see how small their airway is. Nervous system. Evolution continues after birth. Moro reflex. Neonate opens arms wide, spreads fingers, and seems to grab at things. Palmar grasp. Occurs when an object is placed into the neonate's palms. Rooting reflex. A neonate instinctively turns heads when something touches its cheek. Sucking reflex. Occurs when a neonate's lips are stroked. Fontanelles. Space between the bones that eventually fuse to form the skull. Posterior fontanelle fuses by 3 months. Anterior fontanelle fuses between age 9 and 18 months. So if you guys have ever held an infant, they have kind of a soft spot in between on top of their head and the back of their head. And that's what a fontanelle is. Infant's immune system maintains some of the mother's immunities. So like I was saying, these are where your fontanelle is going to be. So psychosocial changes begin at birth and evolve as the infant interacts with the environment. If you take a look at the table, and it goes through basically every month from 2 months to 12 months. Crying is the main method of communicating distress. Infants develop relationships with their parents or caregivers at different rates. Bonding is based on a secure attachment. Anxious avoidant attachment is found in infants who are repeatedly rejected. Separation anxiety is common in older infants. Trust and mistrust involves an infant's needs being met. So we talked about keeping a kid together with their parents if possible when you're doing a patient assessment. And this is because of separation anxiety. So toddlers, 1 to 3 years old. Pulse 90 to 150 beats per minute. Respiratory rate 20 to 30 breaths a minute. Systolic blood pressure 80 to 100. And temperature is going to be 96.8 Fahrenheit to 99.6. Preschoolers, 3 to 6 years. Pulse 80 to 140 beats per minute. Respiratory rate 20 to 25 breaths per minute. Systolic blood pressure 80 to 100. Preschoolers, weight gain should level off. Passive immunity is lost. Toddlers acquire immunity as their bodies are exposed to various viruses and germs. Neuromuscular growth also makes considerable progress at this age. Average age for completion of toilet training is 28 months. Learn to speak and express themselves. Master basic language. Interact and play games with other children. Begin to understand cause and effect. Learn to recognize gender differences by observing role models. 6 to 12 years. Vital signs approach those in adulthood. Pulse 70 to 120 beats per minute. Respiration rate 15 to 20 breaths a minute, and systolic blood pressure 80 to 110. Obvious physical traits and body function changes become apparent. Growth of 4 pounds and 2.5 inches a year. Permanent teeth come in. Brain activity increases in both hemispheres. Pre-conventional reasoning. Children act to avoid punishment and get what they want. Conventional reasoning. Children look for approval from peers and society. Post-conventional reasoning. Children make decisions guided by their conscience. Self-concept and self-esteem develop. Right? 12 to 18 years. Vital signs level off. Pulse 60 to 100 beats per minute. Respiration is 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Systolic blood pressure 90 to 110. Okay. 2 to 3 year growth spurt. Girls finish by 16 years. Boys by 18. Reproductive system matures. Secondary sexual development takes place. Voices start to change. Menstruation begins. Acne can occur. So when you guys start learning about your trauma protocols, once somebody is considered an adult is when they go through puberty. Okay. Social changes. Adolescents and their families often deal with conflict. Privacy becomes an issue. Self-consciousness increases. Adolescents may struggle to create their own identity. Okay. Antisocial behavior and peer pressure peak at age 14 to 16 years. Smoking, illicit drug use, unprotected sex, eating disorders, code of ethics develops. High risk of suicide and depression. 19 to 40 years. Vital signs do not vary greatly. Pulse 60 to 100 beats per minute. Respiratory rate 12 to 20 breaths a minute. Systolic blood pressure 90 to 140. From age 19 to 25 years, the body should be functioning at its optimal level. Lifelong habits are solidified. Life centers on work, family, and stress. Settling down, marriage, and family. One of the more stable periods of life. 41 to 60 years. Vital signs remain the same. Pulse 60 to 100. Respiratory rate 12 to 20. And systolic blood pressure 90 to 140. Vulnerable to vision and hearing loss. Cancer incidence increase. Menopause occurs in late 40s or early 50s. Diabetes, hypertension, and weight problems are common. Exercise and healthy diet can diminish the effects of aging. Focus on achieving life goals. Readjust lifestyle as children leave home. Generally have the physical, emotional, and spiritual reserves to handle life's issues. Maybe caring for both children and leaving for college and aging parents. 61 years and older. Life expectancy is constantly changing. Now approximately 78 years. Okay. Vital signs depend on the patient's overall health, medical conditions, medications taken. Older adults are often able to overcome numerous medical problems, but may need multiple medications. So this is a good thing to know your pharmacology. Know different medications that people may be taking, because most of the time they don't know why they're taking them. And to get a good idea of their medical history and their background is to know different medications, what they're used for, and then any contraindications, indications, and stuff like that. Okay. So cardiovascular system declines with age, largely due to atherosclerosis. Heart rate and cardiac output decrease. Vascular system becomes stiff. Ability to produce replacement blood cells declines, as does blood volume. Respiratory system. Size of airway increases. Surface area of alveoli decreases. Natural elasticity of the lungs decreases. Intercostal muscles are used more to breathe. Breathing becomes more labor intensive. Aspiration and obstruction become more likely. By age 75 years, vital capacity may amount to only 50% of a young adult's vital capacity. Loss of respiratory muscle mass. Increased stiffness of the thoracic cage. Decreased surface area available for the exchange of air. Residual volume increases. Okay. Endocrine system. Insulin production drops off. Metabolism decreases. People tend to slow down their physical activity but do not decrease their food intake. The reproductive system changes to some extent. Men are able to produce sperm, but the rigidity of their penis decreases over time. Women have a decrease in the size of their uterus and vagina. Hormone production for both sexes gradually decreases. Sexual desire may diminish, but does not cease. Okay, digestive system. Taste sensations decrease. Saliva secretion decreases. Ability of the intestines to contract and move food diminishes. Gallstones become increasingly common. Anal sphincter changes can produce fecal incontinence. Renal system. Filtration function declines. Kidney mass decreases by 20%. Decreased ability to clear waste from the body. Decreased ability to conserve fluids when needed. Okay. Nervous system. Motor and sensory neural networks become slower. Neurons are lost, but there is no loss of knowledge or skill. Sleep patterns change. Age-related shrinkage creates a void between the brain and the outermost layer of the meninges. Okay. So on picture on your right. Okay, peripheral nerve sensation is diminished. Increased reaction times cause longer delays between stimulation and motion. Slowdown in reflexes and decreased kinesthetic sense may contribute to falls and trauma. Sensory changes. Most older adults can see and hear well. May need glasses or hearing aids. Visual distortions are common. Hearing loss is 4 times more common than vision loss. Okay. Until about 5 years before death, most people retain high brain function. Statistics indicate that 95% of the elderly live at home. Financial limits may restrict access to healthcare medications. More than 50% of all single women in the United States who are 60 years of age or older are living at or below the poverty line. Elderly need to face their own mortality. Isolation and depression can be challenges. Okay. When providing bag mask ventilations to an infant, what is most important to remember? Yeah. So B, it is important to remember that an infant's lungs are fragile. Ventilations that are too forceful can result in trauma from pressure or barotrauma. Due to large size of the infant's occiput and the increased flexibility of the trachea, the airway can easily be inadvertently occluded by incorrect positioning, either overextension or overflexion. Okay. So A, blood pressure typically increases with age. It's not crucial information when giving ventilations. Okay. And same thing with C. D, an infant has a proportionally larger tongue than an adult. The large tongue could occlude the airway, but it's more important to remember the fragility of the lungs. Okay. So this is another one. If you remember the table we looked at earlier, you see an infant capable of reaching out to people and drooling. She is most likely. C, an infant's psychosocial development begins at birth and continues to evolve as the infant interacts with and reacts to the environment. At 4 months of age, an infant is likely to start reaching out to people and drooling. Okay. An infant who is repeatedly rejected experiences what type of attachment? Yes. B, anxious avoidant attachment is observed in infants who are repeatedly rejected. In this attachment style, children show little emotional response to their parents or caregivers, treat them as they would strangers. These children develop an isolated lifestyle where they do not have to depend on the support and care of others. Yeah. Why do colds develop so easily in toddlers and preschoolers? Okay, so they're younger. They're building up more immunity to different things that they're exposed to. And also, as we know with kids, they don't like to wash their hands, correct? So they like to spread a lot of their own germs around. Okay. So D, all these choices contribute to toddler or preschoolers' increased likelihood of contracting a cold. Okay. Pulse rate of a toddler is B, 90 to 150 beats per minute. A school-age child is looking for approval from his peers and society is demonstrating what kind of reasoning? Okay, B. During school-age development, children begin to develop their self-concept and self-esteem. It is critical time in human development. Children who look for approval from their peers and society are demonstrating conventional reasoning. Yeah, self-concept is A, how we perceive ourselves. Why should you be concerned about a 16-year-old patient who seems depressed? C, adolescents are struggling to create their own identity, but are caught between two worlds. They want to be treated like adults, yet want to be cared for like younger children. Many adolescents are fixated on their public image and are terrified of being embarrassed. Because of all these factors, adolescents are at a higher risk than other populations for suicide and depression. Why do finances become an issue during middle adulthood? A, the parents of adults in this age group are getting older and now need care. Most of the elderly in the United States are cared for by family members inside the home. Therefore, a person in the middle adulthood may need to manage children who are leaving for college while at the same time caring for parents who require greater assistance. Okay. Why is breathing more labor intensive for the elderly? D, all three of these factors may make breathing more labor intensive for the elderly. So, in review, after going all this lifespan development chapter, think about it this way: the younger you are, your heart's going to beat faster, and you're going to be breathing rapidly, and your blood pressure is going to be lower. As you grow older, your blood pressure is going to increase, while also your heart rate and your respiratory rate is going to decrease. So if you look at it that way, okay.